Sam had always felt that the old cabin in the hills was more than just wood and stone. It was memory, it was history, and it was freedom. When he was a boy, he would visit his grandfather there. The smell of pine trees, the soft sound of the creek flowing, and the crackle of firewood in the chimney never left his heart. Now as an adult, after years of living in the city, he felt a strong pull back to that quiet place. The city had been noisy, crowded, and stressful. Sam worked long hours in an office with tall glass windows, but he never felt at peace. His grandfather had passed away years ago, leaving him the cabin and the land around it. For a long time, Sam had left it alone, thinking he was too busy to return. But the more time he spent in the city, the more he missed the calm of the hills. Finally, he packed his truck with tools, supplies, and a few boxes of clothes and drove out of the city one cool morning. The road grew narrower as he left behind traffic lights and shops. Houses grew fewer, and tall pine trees stood like silent guards on both sides of the road. Birds sang in the branches and the air smelled fresher. When Sam reached the dirt path that led to the cabin, he slowed down. The path was rough and uneven, but it felt familiar, like a friend guiding him home. When the cabin came into view, Sam smiled. The wooden walls looked weathered, and the roof had moss growing on it, but the shape of the home was still strong. The porch stretched across the front, though one railing was broken. A stone chimney rose from one side, darkened from years of fire smoke. The cabin sat proudly between tall trees with the small creek running nearby, its water shining under the sun. Sam parked his truck, stepped out, and took a deep breath. The wind carried the scent of pine needles and wildflowers. It was quiet except for the gentle trickle of the creek and the distant sound of a woodpecker tapping on a tree. He stood still for a moment, letting the silence wash over him. After years of car horns, sirens, and office chatter, the quiet felt like medicine. He unlocked the old wooden door and stepped inside. Dust floated in the air as sunlight poured through the windows. The furniture was simple: an old wooden table, 2 chairs, a shelf with books, and a rocking chair that creaked when touched. Cobwebs hung in the corners, but Sam did not mind. He rolled up his sleeves and began to clean. For hours he swept the floor, wiped the shelves, and opened windows to let in fresh air. He found old photographs of his grandfather fishing in the creek, smiling proudly with a catch in his hand. He found a carved wooden box with tools inside, still sharp though unused for years. Each item made him feel closer to his grandfather, as if the man's spirit was still present in the cabin. By afternoon, the place looked brighter. Sam lit a small fire in the chimney to test it, and the familiar crackle filled the room. He cooked a simple meal on the stove, then sat on the porch with a plate in his hand. The view stretched far across the valley, with rolling hills and green fields in the distance. The sun painted the sky orange and pink as it began to set. "This is home," Sam whispered to himself, but peace rarely stays unchallenged. As Sam finished his meal, he noticed movement on the dirt path. A woman walked briskly toward the cabin. She wore a bright outfit, neat and pressed, very different from the rough paths of the hills. Her hair was perfectly styled, and she carried a clipboard tucked under her arm. Her steps were quick and sharp, as if every movement had a purpose. When she reached the porch, she looked at Sam with narrowed eyes. "You must be the new person moving in here," she said firmly. Sam stood and nodded politely. "I'm Sam, this is my grandfather's cabin. I've come back to live here." The woman lifted her chin. "I am Karen, president of the Lakeside Homeowners Association. This cabin falls within our community, and I am here to inform you of the rules. Cabins like this are not allowed. You will need to leave." Sam blinked, surprised. "I think you are mistaken. This cabin was built long before the houses in the association. It has always been my family's property." Karen shook her head. "All land in this area is under our HOA rules now. That means your cabin must meet community standards. It does not match the approved design. It must be removed or you will face fines." Sam frowned but kept his voice calm. "I have the deed. The county records show this land is separate from your neighborhood. My grandfather bought it many years ago, and it has never been part of your HOA." Karen's lips pressed tightly. She tapped her clipboard with her pen. "You do not understand. I am the president of the Lakeside HOA. If I say it is under our control, then it is. This place lowers property values, and that cannot be allowed." Sam straightened his shoulders. He was not a man who liked conflict, but he would not be pushed out of his family's land. With respect, you cannot order me off my own property. I have every right to be here. Karen's eyes flashed with irritation. We will see about that. Without another word, she turned on her heel and marched back down the path. Sam watched her go, his calm expression hiding the storm inside. He had expected to work hard repairing the cabin. He had not expected to face a battle with a homeowners association president who claimed power over his land. That night, Sam lit a lantern and sat at the wooden table inside. He looked again at the photographs of his grandfather. He remembered the man's words. Never let anyone push you from what is yours. This land is freedom. Respect it and it will always be your home. Sam tightened his grip on the photo. He decided then and there that no matter what Karen tried, he would stand firm. The cabin belonged to him, and he would not leave. The stars shone bright outside the window and the creek sang softly in the dark. Sam felt a mix of peace and determination. Tomorrow might bring more trouble, but tonight he was home. The morning sun spilled through the tall pine trees, casting long golden lines across the ground. Sam woke up to the sound of birds singing outside the cabin window. The air was cool, fresh, and filled with the scent of wildflowers. He stretched, smiled, and felt grateful to be back in the hills. After a quick breakfast of eggs and bread, he stepped onto the porch. He could see the valley below, green and quiet. For a moment he felt everything was right. But that peaceful moment ended quickly when voices rose from the dirt path. Karen had returned, this time with two neighbors walking behind her. Both were dressed neatly, though they looked less confident than Karen. She carried her clipboard again, holding it like a shield. Sam sighed but stayed calm. He stepped off the porch to meet them halfway. Karen began without greeting. I told you yesterday this cabin does not belong here. It lowers the value of our community. These neighbors agree with me. She gestured to the couple behind her, who shifted uncomfortably. The man spoke quietly, almost apologetic. We just came because Karen asked. We don't want trouble. Karen's eyes snapped toward him, sharp as glass. It is not trouble, it is order. A community must be managed. Sam folded his arms. This cabin is not part of your community. My grandfather built it long before your houses and your rules. It belongs to me. Karen's face turned stern. She tapped her pen on the clipboard. Listen carefully. The Lakeside HOA has rules. All properties must meet standards. Roof color, porch design, even mailbox style. Your cabin breaks every rule we have. That means fines. If you refuse to pay, further action will follow. Sam looked at her, steady and unshaken. You cannot fine me. Your rules do not apply to my land. I have the deed and I pay taxes directly to the county. Your association has no control here. Her lips thinned. If you fight me, you will regret it. Sam let out a slow breath. I came here for peace, not conflict, but I will not be bullied off my own land. Karen turned sharply and marched back down the path, her neighbors trailing behind like shadows. That evening, Sam worked on repairs. He patched the roof with new shingles he had brought, hammered boards into place, and painted the porch railings. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he felt satisfied. Each repair made the cabin look stronger and more alive. When he stopped to rest, he thought about his grandfather again. The man had always said that people who loved control would never stop unless someone stood up to them. Sam understood that now. The next day, more signs of Karen's pushback appeared. A large paper notice was nailed to a tree at the start of the dirt path. It read in bold letters, Warning, unapproved structure ahead. Not part of community standards. Visitors not welcome. Sam tore it down and set it aside. He shook his head. She's going too far. Later, when a delivery truck tried to bring supplies, the driver hesitated at the start of the path. Some woman stopped me, the driver said. She told me this road is private HOA property. She said I can't deliver here. Sam clenched his jaw. This is my road. Please drive up. She has no authority here. The driver shrugged but followed Sam's directions. Still, Sam knew Karen was spreading her influence like vines, twisting truth into lies. One afternoon, Sam heard hammering outside. He walked quickly to the edge of his land and froze. Karen was pounding a wooden sign into the ground. The sign read, HOA property, no trespassing. Sam approached slowly. His voice was steady, but his eyes were firm. Take that down. Karen did not look at him. This land belongs to our community now. You are trespassing. Sam stepped closer and pulled the sign out of the ground with one hand. He placed it on the dirt. This land belongs to me. I have legal proof. If you want to challenge me, go through the county records. You will lose. Karen finally turned, her face red. You think you are strong, but you are just one man. An HOA is power. You cannot fight all of us. Sam lifted the sign and leaned it against her clipboard. Try me. Her mouth fell open in shock as if no one had ever spoken to her like that. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then she hissed, "You will regret this," and stormed off. That night, Sam sat by the fireplace. Flames flickered, casting shadows on the wooden walls. He felt tired, but not defeated. He knew Karen would not stop. She was used to people following her commands without question. But Sam was not like her neighbors. He remembered when he was a boy, sitting by the same fireplace while his grandfather told stories. His grandfather had faced hard times, storms that destroyed crops, animals that broke fences, even people who tried to buy his land cheaply. But he never gave up. Sam whispered to the fire, "I will do the same. This land is mine. I will protect it." The following morning brought more trouble. Karen stood at the entrance of the neighborhood park with a group of people. She handed out papers to each of them. Curious, Sam walked closer, though he stayed outside the group. He overheard her words. "This man thinks he can live outside our rules," Karen declared. "He refuses to respect our standards. If we allow him to stay, our home values will drop. We must unite against him." The people nodded, though some looked unsure. Sam stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried across the park. "You are being misled. My cabin is not part of your HOA. I own my land. Your rules do not apply to me. Do not let fear control you." The crowd grew quiet. Some shifted uncomfortably. Karen's face burned red. She pointed her pen at him like a weapon. "Do not listen to him. He is a troublemaker. He wants to ruin everything we have built." But Sam could see doubt in their eyes. A woman whispered to her husband, "If it is his land, why should we care?" Another man muttered, "The cabin looks better now than before." "He fixed it." Karen snapped, "Silence. You must follow my lead." Sam realized something important. Karen's power came not from law but from fear. If people stopped fearing her, she would lose control. That evening, Sam returned to the cabin and sat on the porch. The sunset painted the sky with gold and pink, but his mind was restless. He knew Karen would not give up easily. She was determined to push him out no matter what. Yet Sam also knew he had something stronger than her rules. The truth. The cabin was his, the land was his, and the law was on his side. All he had to do was hold firm. As the crickets began their nightly song, Sam whispered to himself, "She may push harder, but I will not move. This is my home." The night grew darker, but inside Sam's heart a fire of determination burned bright. The next week began with calm mornings and long days of work for Sam. He spent hours repairing the cabin, fixing loose boards, clearing weeds around the porch, and cutting wood for the fireplace. Each hammer strike and each brush of paint gave him pride. The cabin looked less abandoned now and more like a home. But peace never lasted long with Karen nearby. One morning, as Sam carried a bundle of wood from the creek, he noticed something unusual. At the start of the dirt path, a large wooden frame stood tall. A banner stretched across it in red letters, "Danger, unsafe structure ahead. Entry not advised." Sam dropped the wood onto the porch and walked to the sign. He touched the fresh paint and shook his head. It was Karen again, trying to scare people away. He tore the banner down and laid it on the ground. "This is going too far," he muttered. When he returned to the porch, he found a folded paper nailed to his door. He pulled it free and opened it. The letter read, "This cabin is unapproved. You are ordered to vacate within 7 days. Failure to do so will result in penalties from the Lakeside HOA." Sam crumpled the paper and tossed it aside. Penalties mean nothing when they have no power here. Later that afternoon, Sam heard a truck engine rumbling on the dirt path. He expected supplies, but instead he saw a landscaping crew unloading tools. Karen stood beside them, pointing toward the cabin. "This is it," she said loudly. "Tear down the broken fence and clear the area. It looks messy." "It is a violation of community standards." Sam walked straight to them. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Stop right now. This is my land. You have no right to touch anything here." One of the workers hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "He seems to live here," Karen snapped. "I am the president of the HOA. You take orders from me." Sam stepped closer. "No, they will take orders from the person who owns this land. And that is me. I suggest you leave before I call the sheriff." The workers looked at each other uneasy. Finally, one said, "We're not getting into legal trouble for this. Let's go." They packed up their tools and drove off, leaving Karen fuming. Her face burned red as she turned to Sam. "You cannot keep this up forever." "We are stronger than you," Sam replied evenly. "Truth is stronger than lies, and the truth is, this land is mine." That night, Sam sat by the fireplace with the glow of flames dancing on the walls. He thought about the day's events. Karen had crossed another line, trying to send workers to his land. He wondered how far she would go. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind again. Land is more than soil. It is your history, your right, and your freedom. Protect it even when others try to claim it. Sam knew the fight was no longer just about a cabin. It was about standing firm against someone who thought power gave her the right to control everything. The next morning brought new signs of Karen's escalation. Flyers were taped to mailboxes across the neighborhood. Each flyer showed a picture of Sam's cabin with bold letters across the top. Unsafe, unsanitary, unwanted. The words below warned people not to visit the cabin or speak with Sam. It claimed the cabin was a health hazard and a risk to children. Sam found one of the flyers on the ground near his path. He read it slowly, then shook his head. "She will poison their minds with lies if I let her." He decided to act. He drove into town and stopped at the county office. After waiting in line, he met with a clerk and explained the situation. The clerk pulled out a thick folder of property records. "Here it is," the clerk said, pointing to the papers. "This cabin and the land around it are outside the lakeside HOA boundaries. You are the sole owner. The HOA cannot fine you, control you, or remove you." Sam asked for copies of the documents and carried them home. He placed them carefully on the cabin table, knowing they might soon be needed. The following day, Karen returned, this time not alone. She brought nearly 10 neighbors with her. They stood in a half-circle near the cabin while Karen spoke loudly, as if giving a speech. "Look at this place," she announced. "A broken old shack ruining the beauty of our community. If we allow him to stay, our property values will drop, our safety will be at risk, and our children will suffer. This cabin must go." Some neighbors nodded, though others looked uncomfortable. Sam stepped forward, holding the property papers in his hand. "This is my land," he said firmly. "I own it. Here are the county records proving that my cabin is outside your HOA. You have no control here." He handed the papers to a man in the crowd. The man read them, then passed them to another neighbor. Murmurs spread through the group. Karen tried to snatch the papers away, but the neighbors moved to keep reading. One woman frowned. "If he owns the land, then why are we here?" Another man scratched his head. "The cabin doesn't look that bad now. He has been fixing it." Karen's voice rose, sharp and commanding. "You do not understand. He is a threat to our order. Without rules, everything falls apart." But her words did not sound as strong as before. The more the neighbors read the papers, the weaker her hold on them became. After the group left, Karen lingered behind. She glared at Sam with cold eyes. "You may think you are clever, but this is not over. I will find another way." Sam looked at her calmly. "Find whatever you want. The truth will always stand." She turned away quickly, her footsteps heavy on the dirt path. That evening, a soft rain began to fall. Sam sat on the porch, listening to the gentle rhythm of drops hitting the roof. The valley looked misty, wrapped in silver clouds. Despite the storm outside, Sam felt steady inside. Karen had escalated the fight, but Sam had met her with calm and truth. She could spread lies, post signs, and rally neighbors, but she could not change the law. The land was his, and he would not move. He looked out into the rain and whispered, "This cabin stood strong for my grandfather. It will stand strong for me." The fire inside the cabin glowed warm, and the rain washed the air clean. Sam knew more battles were coming, but he also knew he was ready. The fight was not just about wood, stone, or land. It was about freedom, honesty, and the courage to stand against control. And Sam was not afraid. The hills were quiet on the morning the showdown began. A thin fog clung to the trees, drifting slowly between the tall pines. Sam stood on the porch of the cabin, sipping hot coffee from a tin cup. The air was crisp, and the sound of the creek mixed with the distant calls of birds. For a moment it felt peaceful. But Sam knew the peace would not last. Karen was not the type to give up. Every day she had grown louder, spreading rumors and posting warnings. Each step she took was designed to push him out. Now he could sense she was preparing something bigger. His feeling was confirmed when a neighbor named Paul walked up the dirt path, carrying an uneasy expression. Paul was one of the quieter residents of Lakeside, and Sam had seen him at the earlier gathering when Karen tried to rally people. "Morning, Paul," Sam greeted. Paul gave a nervous smile. "Morning, Sam, I thought you should know. Karen called for a community meeting at the park today. She says it's about you." Sam's brow furrowed. "About me?" Paul nodded. "She's telling everyone that the cabin is a danger and that you're refusing to cooperate with the HOA. She plans to take a vote against you." Sam sighed, setting down his cup. "Thank you for telling me. I'll be there." Paul nodded again. "Be careful. She knows how to stir people." That afternoon, Sam walked down the dirt road toward the park. The sky was bright, the sun shining through scattered clouds, but tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. When he reached the park, he saw folding chairs arranged in rows. Nearly the whole neighborhood was there, sitting and waiting. At the front stood Karen, her clipboard in her hands like a badge of authority. She wore a confident smile, though her eyes were sharp and restless. As Sam approached, Karen's voice rang out. "There he is, the man who thinks he can live outside our rules." All eyes turned toward Sam. Some were curious, some doubtful, and some hostile. Sam did not flinch. He walked forward and stopped near the front row. Karen raised her hand for silence. "Neighbors, thank you for coming. Today we must decide what to do about this cabin and the man who refuses to follow our community standards. If we allow him to stay, our property values will drop. Our safety will be at risk. Our neighborhood will be ruined." Murmurs spread through the crowd. A few nodded in agreement, but many looked uncertain. Karen continued, her voice sharp. "This man has ignored every warning. He refuses to pay fines. He refuses to remove the cabin. He believes he is above our rules. But we cannot let one person destroy what we have built together." She pointed her pen at Sam. "You are not welcome here." Sam waited until the murmurs quieted, then stepped forward. His voice was calm but strong enough to carry across the park. "I came here to live in peace. This cabin is my grandfather's. He built it before any of these houses stood here. I have the deed and the tax records. This land has never been part of your HOA. I am not breaking any law." He held up the county documents. "These are the official records. Anyone who wants to see them can look." The papers passed from hand to hand in the front row. Neighbors leaned forward to read, whispering among themselves. Karen's smile faltered. She snapped, "Do not be fooled by his tricks. These papers mean nothing. Our community has rules, and rules are stronger than any old document." But her words did not sound as confident as before. One man raised his hand. "If his land is outside our HOA, then we cannot force him to leave." A woman in the second row added, "He has fixed the cabin. It looks better now. I don't see how it harms us." Karen slammed her clipboard on the table. The sharp sound startled the crowd. "Do you want your property values to sink? Do you want strangers coming and going near your homes? He is a danger to all of us." Sam looked at the crowd, his voice steady. "I am not a stranger. I am a neighbor. I respect my land and I respect yours. I have never tried to control you. All I ask is the same respect in return." The people grew quiet. Doubt filled their faces. Karen's voice rose again, louder, almost desperate. "Without rules there is chaos. Without order there is ruin. Do not let him fool you." But her words no longer had the same weight. The neighbors had seen the proof. They had seen Sam's calm, steady presence against Karen's anger. The meeting ended with no vote, no decision, only silence. People walked away, whispering to one another. Some avoided Karen's gaze. Others gave Sam small nods of respect. Karen stood alone near the front, gripping her clipboard tightly. Her face was pale with frustration. She glared at Sam and hissed under her breath, "This is not over." Sam met her eyes calmly. "Maybe not, but the truth is stronger than threats." Karen turned sharply and stormed away, her heels striking the ground with quick, angry steps. Over the next few days, the neighborhood began to shift. Some people who once followed Karen without question started to greet Sam politely when they passed. A few even walked up his dirt path to see the repairs he had done. They admired the new shingles on the roof, the fresh paint on the porch, and the way the cabin seemed alive again. One evening, a family brought him a pie as a gesture of welcome. "We know you're not part of the HOA," the mother said with a smile, "but you're part of the valley now. That's enough for us." Sam thanked them warmly. He felt hope rising, but Karen did not stop. Though her grip on the neighbors weakened, her determination only grew stronger. She filed more complaints with the county, claiming the cabin was unsafe, that it was polluting the creek, that it was attracting pests. Each time inspectors arrived, checked the cabin, and found nothing wrong. Each time, Sam's records proved his ownership. With every failed attempt, Karen's frustration deepened. She still walked the neighborhood with her clipboard, but fewer people listened to her. Some even turned away when she approached. One night, Sam sat by the fire again. The cabin glowed warmly, and outside the stars sparkled over the valley. He thought about everything that had happened, the signs, the flyers, the meeting at the park. He knew Karen was losing her hold, but he also knew she was not finished. People like her did not let go easily. They clung to control like a lifeline. Still, he felt stronger than before. He had faced her in front of the entire community. He had shown them the truth, and the truth had weakened her grip. He looked at the old photograph of his grandfather on the shelf, smiling beside the creek with a fish in his hand. "I'm doing what you taught me," Sam whispered. "I'm standing firm." The flames crackled softly, filling the cabin with light. Sam leaned back in the rocking chair, steady and calm. The battle was not over, but the tide had begun to turn. Karen might still try again, but now she was no longer the unchallenged voice of power. The neighbors had seen through her, and they had seen the truth in him. And Sam knew that in the end, the truth would win. The morning sun rose slowly over the valley, painting the trees in gold and orange. The cabin stood proud and strong, its wooden walls shining after all the repairs. Sam stepped outside, breathing the fresh air deeply. For weeks, he had fought against Karen's endless attacks, but each time he had stood his ground. He knew the end of the struggle was near, though he did not yet know how it would come. Karen, however, was not done. Though she had lost much of her support in the neighborhood, her stubbornness had only grown sharper. She believed she could still win if she struck hard enough. The clipboard was still in her hand each day, her shoes clicking against the pavement as she stormed from house to house, trying to gather the last bits of loyalty she could find. One afternoon, as Sam worked on building a small fence near the creek, he saw Karen approaching with two men in suits. Their shoes were dusty from the long walk up the dirt path, but their expressions were firm. Karen raised her voice before she even reached him. "Sam, this is your final warning. These gentlemen are from the county. I told them about your violations, and today they will see the proof for themselves." Sam stood tall, wiping sweat from his brow. "Good afternoon. You are welcome to look around." The men introduced themselves politely and began their inspection. They checked the foundation, the roof, the yard, and the creek. Sam followed them quietly, answering their questions and showing his documents again. Karen trailed behind them, pointing out every detail she could find. "Look at this fence. It is too close to the water," she snapped. "Look at that chimney. It must be unsafe. Look at those tools left outside. It lowers the beauty of our valley." But the men wrote their notes carefully and asked calm questions. After an hour, they returned to the front yard. One of them cleared his throat and said, "Mr. Sam, everything here is legal. Your property lines are correct. Your cabin meets safety standards. The creek is not harmed. We see no reason for complaint." Karen's face turned red. "What, no reason? This is outrageous. Look again. He is breaking every rule we have." The man shook his head firmly. "Ma'am, your HOA has no power here. This land is outside your association. We cannot act on your claims." Sam kept his voice calm. "Thank you for coming to check." "I appreciate it." The men nodded, shook his hand, and left down the dirt road. Karen stayed behind, trembling with fury. "This is not the end," she spat. "You may have tricked them, but I will find another way. I will not let you ruin my community." Sam looked at her with steady eyes. "The only one ruining the community is you, Karen. People want peace. They are tired of fear." Karen glared at him, then stormed away. In the days that followed, the valley grew quieter. Without county officials on her side, Karen's voice weakened further. Neighbors began to avoid her more openly, no longer afraid of her clipboard or her sharp tongue. Some even told her directly that they were finished with her campaigns. Sam, on the other hand, was gaining quiet respect. People came by with small gifts, asking about the cabin's history. He showed them the old photos of his grandfather fishing in the creek or chopping wood in front of the porch. They listened with interest, realizing the cabin was part of the valley's story long before the houses were built. One evening, the neighborhood gathered for a seasonal festival at the park. There were food stalls, games for children, and a small stage for music. Sam hesitated at first, unsure if he should attend, but when Paul and his wife came by his cabin carrying a plate of cookies, they urged him, "You should come, Sam. People want to see you there. It will show that you are part of this valley, too." Sam nodded and agreed. That night he walked into the park, unsure of what kind of welcome he would receive. But to his surprise, people smiled and waved. Children ran past him laughing, and adults greeted him with nods and kind words. "Glad you came," someone said. "Your cabin looks wonderful now," another added. Sam felt warmth spread through him. For so long he had been treated like an intruder. Now he was being treated like a neighbor. But not everyone was smiling. At the edge of the park, Karen stood stiffly with her clipboard, watching him with narrowed eyes. Her last loyal supporters were only a handful, and even they looked weary of her constant bitterness. When Sam walked by, she hissed, "You think you've won, but this is not over." Sam stopped and looked at her kindly. "Karen, it could be over. You could choose peace. You could choose to enjoy your home without fighting everyone around you." Karen's jaw tightened. She said nothing, only turned away, her pride too heavy to let her answer. The festival ended peacefully. For the first time since moving into the cabin, Sam felt truly at home. He sat by the fire that night thinking of the journey he had faced. Every attack, every rumor, every false claim, it had all led to this moment of quiet victory. But the final piece of the battle came a week later, in the form of an official letter. It was addressed to Sam from the county office. When he opened it, he found words that made him smile. The letter explained that after repeated false complaints and wasted inspections, the county had issued a warning to the HOA itself. Karen's misuse of authority was now on record. Any further baseless claims could result in fines against the association. Sam read the letter twice, then laughed softly. At last the truth was not only clear to the neighbors, but also written in law. Karen could no longer twist the system against him. That evening, he pinned the letter to the wall inside the cabin. It was more than paper. It was proof that he had truly won. Karen's power collapsed slowly after that. Without fear on her side, she was only a neighbor with a clipboard. People stopped answering her calls. Meetings grew empty. Flyers she posted were torn down within hours. Meanwhile, Sam continued to repair and improve the cabin. He built a small garden near the porch, planting flowers that bloomed bright in the morning sun. He fixed a bench by the creek, where children sometimes came to sit and skip stones. The cabin, once a target of hate, became a quiet place of welcome. Even Paul, who had once warned Sam about Karen's influence, came one evening with his wife to sit by the fire. "You've changed the valley, Sam," Paul said. "Not by fighting, but by standing steady," Sam smiled. "I didn't change it alone. People chose to see the truth." Months passed and the seasons shifted again. Snow touched the trees, covering the valley in white. The cabin glowed warmly with smoke rising from the chimney. Sam sat inside, watching the flames crackle, feeling grateful for everything. Karen still lived in her house, but she was no longer the queen of the valley. Her clipboard gathered dust and her voice no longer carried the same power. She had tried to claim land that was not hers, to control what she could not own. In the end, her anger had only isolated her. The valley had found balance again, and Sam had found peace. One evening, as the firelight flickered on the old photograph of his grandfather, Sam whispered, "It's done. The cabin is safe, and so am I." Outside, the stars shone bright over the valley, as if the land itself approved. Sam leaned back in his chair, steady and calm, knowing that he had not just defended his cabin. He had defended his right to live free, to honor his family's legacy, and to stand firm against fear. It was not only a victory over Karen, it was a victory for peace, truth, and the strength to endure. And with that, the old cabin by the creek stood stronger than ever, a symbol of resilience in the quiet valley.